Well, new at this hour, we're talking gut health at a time where more and more people are becoming more conscious about their digestion. Right now, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, affects about 11% of the world's population, leaving millions to ask, what can I actually eat? So joining us live this morning to speak more about the subject, two different doctors, Dr. Mark Pimentel and Ali Rezaie. Gentlemen, good morning to you. Really appreciate it. Focusing on SIBO in particular, how do you know, for those who aren't familiar, if you've got SIBO versus, say, leaky gut or some other digestive issue?
Thank you. Mike, you want to take that?
Oh, yeah. So SIBO is basically when you have an accumulation of bacteria in the small intestine. It's a little complicated, but the bowel is divided into sort of three segments: the stomach, the small intestine, which is the longest, and the colon, which is where the stool comes out. But the small intestine is where you do all your digestion and absorption, and that part's supposed to be relatively clean, a low number of bacteria. When you have too much bacteria there, then you end up having SIBO, and SIBO can be diagnosed quite easily with a breath test, a non-invasive test. And there are now three types of SIBO: a hydrogen type, a hydrogen sulfide type, and then for the constipated patients, a methane type. And so it's different types of bacteria or organisms that determine what type you are and how your doctor should handle it.
Well, then, Dr. Rezaie, let's talk about how do we get that kind of bacteria or keep it from being into our system? How do you get overloaded with that and then eventually leading to SIBO? And then how do we prevent that?
So one important thing to know about this is that this is not something that we get. These bacteria already live in our colon, in our large intestine, and because the small bowel is not moving well and can't keep itself clean, the colonic bacteria creeps back into the small bowel and it overgrows. So it's not an infection; it's rather an imbalance of the bacteria, an overgrowth of the colonic bacteria inside the small bowel, which, when they're in the wrong place, they lead to symptoms, because when you eat, instead of you digesting it, the bacteria digests it. Bacteria, when they digest things, they produce a lot of side products, and also they produce gas. And that leads to bloating, abdominal distension, and also a lot of abdominal discomfort.
And what happens to the small intestine where it is not clean? Is that because we're eating processed foods, or what leads to that condition?
Well, it's a combination of things. First of all, we now know that one of the key things that causes the small bowel to malfunction is food poisoning. So let's say you went on a trip and you got really sick, you develop food poisoning. The toxin, a particular toxin from food poisoning, leads to changes in the gut nervous system, and then the gut doesn't function well anymore. Then the bacteria start to accumulate. That's one of the lead theories for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth development.
I see.
There are, of course, other ways that you can get small intestinal bacterial overgrowth if the bowel is partly blocked by something, and so it's not the only reason.
Got it. And you guys suggest a low fermentation diet. Can you explain what you mean?
So low fermentation eating is essentially a diet and lifestyle that we have developed based on what we know about how bowels move and clean themselves, and also how the balance of bacteria in the bowel is kept. So we recommend meal spacing. That meal spacing between let's say, lunch and dinner, if you eat about 6 hours, that leads more house cleaning ways. And also we recommend low fermentation diet, and these are foods that are not easily digestible by the bacteria. So it provides a less favorable environment for the microbes to grow. So a combination of this helps controlling of your symptoms.
Makes a lot of sense, and gut health is so critical to the overall health of the entire body as well. So gentlemen, thanks for the important conversation this morning. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.